Well, welcome to the second edition of our new and improved office hours for 2015. Hopefully you all are hearing me and seeing the screen without a problem. As you have questions, go ahead and post those. We'll answer them in line or address them if we can. Again, if you can send questions ahead of time as well, any things that you're looking for feedback on or extra support with, we'd love to incorporate those into these calls. Now, if you weren't with us last week, I definitely recommend you go take a look at that. A lot of good ideas to bridge user-generated content, highly viral content, and sponsorships. Today's going to sort of build on that foundation with a few things. So we're going to talk about community sponsorship packages as a unique or perhaps a new approach to selling, how it can be pitched, and then some other things that can dovetail off of that. If you haven't already, if you haven't received an invite from us or you haven't joined the new Locable group on Facebook, obviously you're not going to write that down. But let us know or search Facebook for Locable's group. We're using that as a way to engage and interact with publishers more on a real-time basis. And also a way to sort of pepper out little useful, actionable ideas that you can incorporate throughout the week. Not to mention, of course, dialogue between publishers, which is fantastic. What you'll notice today is we're not going to be doing open Q&A as we have in the past, and we also are introducing a new sort of best practices productivity call that will be coming off once a month, more for technology and specific implementation. So these calls are meant to be much more actionable, as we mentioned last week. As we dig in here, I want to talk to you a little bit about community sponsorship. So this is a picture I took last week, and if you're on the Facebook group, you may have seen it. I was walking into a Subway here near my house to buy lunch, and I noticed these little stickers on the doors. Now, that's the local high school. And I have no idea what this Subway sponsors for the high school, but clearly something because they've got a couple stickers there. And if we've talked at any length, you know that Locable is all about sort of modernizing the things that already happen in the real world. And so sponsorships of your site is really a way to do this. It's about the community. It's often an investment in you. It's a great way to get businesses involved and not make it a technical sell. It's not about digital. It's really about the community and how they can get connected in. So a couple things to note about this. You're giving people who sponsor an opportunity to brag. In the case of this Subway, undoubtedly they went out into some different venues at the high school, whether it's a big billboard on the football stadium or whether it's in the program or whatever. But then the school went further and they give them these placards and these stickers and whatnot, and it's a chance for you to sort of be proud of what you're doing. In this case, in your real storefront. In the digital sense, this could be on your website. It could be on your blog. It could be on whatever it is that you have as a local business to say, I support this organization that is important to the community. I want to highlight that as we talk about community sponsorships, one of the benefits of this and what makes it really a compelling sell is that they get locked in pricing. So I'm going to recommend 12 months as a minimum commitment for these sponsorships, which means as your site grows, your engagement grows, whether we're talking about things that include an email or on Facebook or your actual web traffic, their price is locked in. And it may be higher, the price may be higher than would otherwise be appropriate for your level of engagement, but it's because you know that you're growing and it will outpace it very shortly. On the flip side, it's guaranteed revenue for you. So it's sort of that bird in the hand concept. It's better to have some money locked up now than potentially to sell something for more in the future, assuming revenue today is important to you. And it's not for everyone. I think too often the publishers that we work with and that we observe, you want everything you have to sell to be for everyone, but it just doesn't work that way. If you're a print publisher, not everyone's going to buy a 2-page spread or the prime spots or a full page. Some are going to buy smaller spots. In digital, it means there's just different things that are available. This is meant for prime sponsorships. It's also meant for people and organizations who are very much community oriented. If my business isn't very sort of rah-rah community, I'm probably not going to care about this. If I'm, on the local chamber board and I'm super active and I do fundraisers, I'm a prime candidate for an opportunity to support the community and, frankly, to brag about myself in a way that doesn't sound like I'm bragging about myself. So this is the foundation of what a community sponsor is. And this is true, again, of whether it's Subway with a high school or whether it's what we're going to talk about here for your sites. It's a great way to tap into these local ideas. Now, I want to really quickly stress, we're going to go through an example. It is an example. I want you to fundamentally understand the concept because there are no rules to this in terms of, oh, this is the community sponsor package. You can make your own package, your own price points. Undoubtedly, different people on this call have different levels of engagement. Some of you just joined us. Others of you had very engaged sites well before you started working with Locable, and most of you are somewhere in between. So I don't want you to take this as sort of set in stone. I want you to really dig in and understand the concepts we're going through here, and then that can lead to what's best for you. So why do we want to use community sponsors? Well, those of you who are on the West Coast or have visited might be familiar with In-N-Out burgers. This place is phenomenal. Has very good fast food. It's actually surprisingly healthy. They pay their employees well. Everyone's very polite, and they're hugely profitable. Yet when you look at their menu, you see this. This is their menu. Would you like burgers, fries, or a shake, or maybe something else to drink? It's incredibly simple. There's all sorts of psychological research that's been done out there that says fewer options make things easier for people to say yes. They often will set up these tests in a grocery store, and they'll set up sort of 2 types of jam that people can choose from. And it turns out 2 is not enough because there's not enough variation. And then they'll set up sort of 5 or 6. And then they'll set up like 25. 25 people are overwhelmed. I can't even look through this. Too much information. 2 is not enough. 5 or 6 is really good. And that's what you see here. Now, that doesn't mean that it's the only option. What it's really doing is it's focusing you on the value. What's the core value of a burger joint? Well, it's about the main course of a burger. It's about sort of the sides, which is fries and shake, and then something to drink. And so in your case, you want to focus on value, engagement, audience, core marketing value, etc. And it's the start of the conversation. It's not the end of it. You don't look at this and go, oh, you know what? It doesn't say lettuce, so they must not have lettuce. It doesn't say tomatoes, so they must not have tomatoes. It is the start of that conversation. And in the case of In-N-Out, it's definitely not an exhaustive set of options. There is the secret menu, which is basically they'll make anything you want. These are some pictures I found on the internet of various concoctions, more patties, more cheese, variations, whatever. The point is, it's a way to start a conversation and get the ball rolling without overwhelming people right out of the gate. And as we often say, the great thing about digital is also the negative, is that there's so many options. And so how do we boil it down? And community sponsors is one of the ways. So let's talk about this and break it down a little bit further. So recognition is a big part of this. And there's a recognition that you can provide, and there's the recognition that they can enjoy on their own whatever, as a sponsor. One of the things that you've probably seen recently with the Locable technology is we've got this idea of a universal embed, something you can put that appears on every page. And so one of our publishers has created this. A little bit hard to read, but it literally is a way to identify the community sponsors in their market. It's not an ad. It's merely a recognition of these businesses. Now, these logos link out to their website, and this appears on every page. A real simple way to be like, who's the people who are important here? Oh, the Lime Inn is really investing in the community. And we couple it with things like a premium directory listing, because you obviously want to get your directory to be used and useful. And the more premium listings you're able to get in there, the more other people want to get in there, and so forth. At a minimum, you're going to want to include a snapshot banner ad. In many cases, especially newer sites, you may want to add more premium locations. Of course, you'll use a share a voice method, which you can review from previous office hours. But at a minimum, a snapshot ad. You'll also want to incorporate things like promoted articles. These are paid placement and featured events, depending on the type of business. Some may have a lot of events, so they skew that way. And as I'm sure you're aware, there's multiple levels of featured events that can include an article. So in either case, they can be incorporated. Now, promoted means, it's paid to be there, it will be there indefinitely, but you also include it as a share on Facebook, and you include it in an email newsletter, perhaps your weekly newsletter that goes out, or your daily. Basically, it's a way to reach your audience across the board. And again, it's something they can talk about, they can promote. So like those graphics you saw on the storefront window, if you're going to do this, create little graphics. You know, I support Altadena Point, and make a little graphic out of it and let people put it on their website and link to your site. You're getting promotional value out of it, and they're able to pat themselves on the back. You might even give them a little recognition that they can share out to their Facebook page. So this is the fundamental idea. You don't see things like, email sponsorship or any specific ads other than a snapshot. But again, this is the idea. You can take it, you can make it your own. And obviously, depending on the types of relationships you already have, the type of community you're in, you may want to add more to this core value because you think you can sell it for more down the road. So obviously, upgraded listings have a lot of benefits. This is a real quick overview. There are a few things that the listings that are upgraded can have that others don't, like a video and social links, but most notably, upgraded listings show up more prominently in the directory, and premium listings will appear on your homepage. So it's both a promotion and a presence thing. For those that you sell, you can use the new invite feature to invite people and to upgrade their listing directly, no credit card required. So let's talk through an example here. So on the left, you say, okay, how much is each of these things worth? Again, you're all in very different places, so I don't really want you to get worked up if this doesn't line up with you. But let's assume these things. A logo is 120, the premium listing is 25, the snapshot ad's 30, and the article is 100. So the value there is effectively $275 a month. Now, you've got a couple options on this. You can say, well, we're growing, so I'm going to price this at $400 a month, and we're going to outpace that value in a couple months, and since you're locked in, you're going to really end up on the high end here. And of course, this doesn't include things like the recognition on their own website. Or you can go the other way and say, you know what, I'm going to give you a good deal. If you sign up now and lock this in, I'm going to give you a discount. So let's start with that. So if your site is just getting started in particular, if you haven't done much in the way of sales, you can take this approach. And let's say you pick a price point of 75 to 200. I'd really argue that 75 is too low, but I want to show you that this is still interesting. And you go out and you sell 4 to 10 of these. You know, obviously you don't have to do it all right away. You can sell 4, and then you can sell a 5th and a 6th and whatever. But the idea is, you build up. Well, in that range, 4 times 75 is $300 a month. 10 times 200 is $2,000 a month, and then you can mix and match the math depending on, which path you go down. But the point here is, this is a really simple way to sort of cover your costs, or depending on how you go about it, to actually start to make some real money. Again, go out to those people who really are rah-rah for the community. If you're more established, if your sales team is more enterprising and frankly perhaps better equipped, you might start off with a range of $200 to $500 a month. A lot of the publishers that we work with, the $500 range is really quite a good deal, especially for those businesses who want to be locked in and really want to stand out as being different. Again, this is not for everyone. You can always go sell a snapshot ad to somebody for $30. You can do that all day long, but this is for certain businesses that are very much community oriented. Again, if you go 4 to 10, now you're looking at a range of $800 a month on the low end if you sell just 4, to $5,000 a month if you sell 10. All of a sudden, that's a business. And this doesn't include all the a la carte. It doesn't include social promotions. It doesn't include any of those things. The point is, this is a little bit of effort that takes a unique approach. And I think you'll be surprised when you go to the right people and you can allow them to give them the opportunity to be one of the exclusive 10 community sponsors for only $500 a month. And oh, by the way, we're going to recognize you as often as we can because we love you and you support us, even beyond what's included here. That's a lot of value. When you think of what businesses spend $500 a month on to promote their business in other ways, whether it's direct mail, whether it's yellow pages, whether it's who knows what, this is some high value stuff. So you want to make sure, of course, that you're mentioning it in every conversation. For those of you who are print publishers, it's critical that digital is a part of it. For those of you who are digital only, it's critical that even in your, in your editorial conversations, that you're letting people know, hey, we've got this great audience. Brag about yourself. We have this great audience because we cover terrific local content. You're a business owner. You probably would be interested in some of the things that we can do for you. And of course, this doesn't include audience extension or any of those other things. But the point is, make it a part of the conversation. 20 seconds. You don't have to be the hard salesperson. You just need to incorporate it. So here's how we like to do it. And many of you have seen this before. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Advertiser. We're starting to do some pretty interesting things online with our local audience. There's new ways we're starting to engage them. And we'd love to see if you'd like to be a part of that. Are you interested? So I sort of veered from the script, but you could read right from it. And basically, you've got a couple paths. They can say, yes, I would like to learn more. They can say, no, I don't. So if they say yes, you may want to refer to the fact that you're working with Locable. This is almost like a self-deprecating, we're investing in our business and we're investing in your business. So Locable works with us in some interesting ways, sometimes to fulfill some of the things we can talk about. We're building our audience. We're driving engagement. We're seeing substantial growth already, and we're going to continue to see it over the next 12 months. You can be a part of that. Everyone wants to be a part of growth. Everyone wants to get in at the ground floor or on a rocket that's taking off. So talk about the story. Talk about the things you're doing. Great content, growing Facebook engagement, using email in new ways, really telling local stories. Get people excited about it. If they live there, they care. And we're looking for a few businesses to be community sponsors. A few. It's not for everyone. You want to build in scarcity. You want to build in urgency. If this isn't right for you, that's okay. We've got other options. But if you're somebody who wants to support the community, I think you'd be a good fit for this. And it really demonstrates values. My mom shops local. She'll spend more money to buy local because she wants to support the people who run the businesses. She has a relationship with the people in the businesses. Help your advertisers reach more people like my mom who would rather spend an extra 20% than buy from Amazon. There's a lot of people out there, but you have to demonstrate those values, and your business as a publisher can be a part of that. And again, if you want to get started now, we'll lock you in for 12 months, which will make sure that you have the low price even as all of our engagement grows. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? If you say yes, then you say, great, let's get started. You should have some sort of agreement, insertion order, or something else that they can sign. And again, as we said before, use an invoicing system like FreshBooks. Set up recurring credit card billing. Just lock it in, dial it in, set up their credit card, and it will ring once a month. If they say no, that's not the end of the conversation. We intentionally set this up to be a unique opportunity. Oh, I totally understand. It's not for everybody. But tell me about what you're trying to accomplish, because we have a lot of ways that we can help you reach your goals. Every business is looking for something. Most are looking to make more money. Some don't need more customers, but they want to work fewer hours. I just had a conversation with someone who said, oh, no, we already have too many customers, which aside from being a complete joke, some people say that. Well, what is it that they would like? What can you solve for them? Can you give them more freedom? Maybe they're working too hard to serve those customers, and there's better ways they can do that. Get creative and understand what their problem is. And if they really push back and say no, or they say, you know what, we are seriously totally tapped out, and you actually sort of believe them, get them to create their listing, claim their listing. Push them towards a premium listing as a starting point. It's only $25 a month, and then you can use that as a way to go back again and again. And you can still throw them a bone every now and then with social media references and so forth. You can highlight the fact that there is some SEO benefit as well. So it gives you a couple ways to sort of set the stake in the ground and then move from it if you need to, but a lot of people will simply say, hey, that sounds like a steal. Just to rehash, many of you don't have a ton of content or daily content. You don't have sort of the daily posts on Facebook or email. And traditionally, that would be problematic. But our approach is really to drive revenue from go. So, when you can identify these revenue opportunities, whether it's these sorts of sponsorships, whether it's sponsoring social promotions or other sorts of content, you're really going to be in a good position to drive revenue today and growth tomorrow. If you already have good engagement, These things still work. They will still take you to the next level. If you get 10 businesses in your community who become community sponsors, they're going to be out there promoting your site. They're going to have the graphic on their website. It's just going to help grow everything else that you do. So I want to sort of focus on this for a moment, though. A lot of our publishers are really struggling with solution selling. They're sort of resisting asking what are the hard questions. Someone says, "Oh no, I'm not interested." Well, what is it you're not interested? You advertise, so what are your goals? Why are you spending money somewhere on something? We might have a unique solution for you. Ask the questions. These sponsorships are not meant to say, "Oh, now you don't have to solution sell. Now you can just walk in and shove it in everyone's face and hopefully a few says yes." These are just tools for you. Like we just went through that exercise. What if they say no? How can you adjust and pivot off of that? These are sort of like bumpers on bumper bowling. But the idea here is at some point you're going to sell out of these. And you're going to be needing to rely on solution selling. So hopefully this can help you get up to speed on that process. So if you're just selling ads, you're leaving money on the table, but perhaps more importantly, you're underserving your advertisers. This is one way to help you avoid that pitfall. So last week, we went through this. I'm not going to spend much time here, but if you weren't on the call last week, please go watch it. It lays this foundation on other sponsorships. And a lot of what we're talking about is don't resist, don't fight the trends. If there is a trend, if there is a fad, write it. Don't sort of overcommit to it, but write it and use it. So ride the seasonal waves. If you're going to be doing sponsored content, of which maybe you include some of this with your charter sponsors, or maybe it's a separate deal. Seasonality makes a difference. People want to be involved. We've got Valentine's Day coming up. What can you do around sponsored content for Valentine's Day? Maybe the top local Valentine's Day spots, dinners, favorite Valentine's gifts that you can give this year. Who can sponsor that? And if you can do some simple mock-ups, it will really help you sell. People are not terribly creative. And if you tell them, "Hey, we've got this sponsored content," they might see a whiteboard in their mind, and that's it, nothing. They got nothing. If you show them a picture like this and you put their logo on it and they go, "That's cool. I am like the official sponsor of this area light show guide," I'm in. Obviously, it's not going to represent the entire value proposition, but it's enough to get them to understand. So create these engaging story arcs. Last week we talked about how we did that with a pumpkin patch guide, and it spun off to multiple articles and how it led to user engagement, which led to more articles, which led to more people going to their website. So it's about these story arcs that keep people engaged with you and really focus on the simple things. Obviously, the seasonality is nice. You got St. Patrick's Day coming up in a couple of months, but you don't have to be in these areas. You can always break out and go specific to a given sponsor. So, if you've got a horseback riding sponsor, and it's their business is to train people to ride horses, put together a trail guide sponsored by so and so. I came up with that off the top of my head here on this call. There's probably 5,000 other things you can sell that would be really interesting content that's really authentically local that also could have a sponsor attached to it. As we sort of wrap up today, I want you to think differently. I want you to be systematic. There's lots of publishers and lots of media providers starting to sell some of the things we're teaching you to sell, but they're still selling them a la carte. Hey, we've got this thing. We've got this other thing. We've got yet this other thing. But sell solutions, solve real problems. What you see on the right here is the purchase funnel. I really like this model, the ADA model: attention, interest, desire, and action. Every purchase decision goes through this process. Not everything I can spend money on to advertise my business addresses each phase here. What we talk about with you are things that can really legitimately address every phase, from, "Hey, I didn't know you existed. Now you have my attention," to, "Okay, I'm about to buy something. What's going to make me take action with your business?" and everywhere in between. So think about it in terms of solutions. Get creative. Think like you're an ad agency is what I want you to get to. And don't let the client say no. This sounds a little ridiculous, but your clients need your help. They're bad marketers by and large. Agencies are not necessarily an exception to this, by the way, especially local agencies. They really struggle with a lot of these concepts. They tend to be more graphic design firms. So if someone says no and you know you can help them, don't accept that. Tell them I would be negligent if I let you say no to me to this because this really will change your business. So get to that point. Some of our most successful publishers have come in and haven't necessarily fully appreciated the nuance of what they're able to deliver with Locable's help, but they're successful because they know that this is true. They fundamentally know that they're in media and marketing and their clients are not, and that what they can offer will deliver value. So you need to think about what are your goals, and then breathe. A lot of publishers come in and say, okay, I need to go from where I am to light speed immediately. And things don't happen that way. There's acceleration. You need to work this process. The important thing is if you are talking to people every day and you're going through these various options, it's not that much work. So I want to give you a little example of this. Now, this is a worksheet we've just put together, and it's a little bit meant to be facetious in the sense that it's so simple, but I'm going to walk through it nevertheless. So if you work with Locable and you're a member, you've got some costs, right? Generally a couple $100s. And so for a lot of publishers, the first step is, okay, how do I generate enough revenue to cover sort of my hard digital costs? If you do a lot of emailing, you'd have some of that, etc. So the directory is the first path. How many people have to get a premium directory listing, again, with the 50-50 revenue split, to cover your costs? So if you write in, let's say, $300 a month, and you get $1,250 here, how many have to do it? And I think the number is 20. And so you go, okay, I have to get 20 businesses to do a premium directory listing. That's one path to cover in my hard costs. And then what if I were to go the charter sponsor route, and I only do $200? Well, how many people have to give me $200 a month to make $300 a month? Well, 1.5. So if you get 2, you're profitable. Okay, well, that's 2 people out of presumably thousands of local businesses. Okay. What about just normal digital campaigns? Not the full charter sponsorships, but maybe a mix of things. Okay, and then you do the math. Or audience extension. If you're not familiar with this, check out the video. It's about buying ads on or selling ads that appear on other people's websites. Generally, the minimum is $300 a month, and you have a 50% margin built in. So how many people have to do that? 2, great, okay. And you can see how this is working out. And then social promotions. These are a la carte, as opposed to the others, which are generally recurring, but nevertheless, you can do the math. So now all of a sudden, you've got 5 separate ways where a fairly minimal amount of effort, when you're doing the right things, can help you cover your costs. And if you're a concierge client where we're doing everything for you, the same thing applies. It's just a different multiplier. So it's not hard, right? I mean, it's not like you have to boil the ocean. You don't have to go land the big whale. Nothing here is $5,000 a month. You don't have to sell 200, 300, 400 clients. So there's 5 different steps. They're all fairly simple ways to cover your costs. And for all of you on the call, I know at least some of them are new. So what if you didn't do just one? What if you did all 5? And what if once you did all 5, you did it again next month? Then what would happen, right? How many people do you have to sign this month to break even? And then what if you just did 2 more next month, and then 2 more next month? And all of a sudden, you've got yourself a very profitable business. When you look at most business models, it really is modest work towards a goal that leads to wealth and sustainability. And so that's what we're trying to preach here is that, if you happen to get lucky, if you land the whale, if you have 10 businesses come to you in a month and say, we all want to sponsor, that's fantastic. And you should count your blessings. But if it's a little more work than that, that's fine, because you can go step by step. And everything in this is about recurring revenue and about delivering value and about getting better every month systematically. So I hope that made sense. It's sort of a fun exercise I like to do with people who sometimes hyperventilate about where they want to go without thinking about the slow and steady path to get there. So, and at least so they can be viewed like compound interest. I think that's absolutely correct. Einstein said the most powerful force in the universe was compound interest, and and it really is how you should view these things that you have available to sell. Sure, some people occasionally will cancel or heaven forbid, go out of business. But there's a lot of businesses in your community who could use a little marketing help. And you can provide it, and you can make some money in the process without being a distraction for your core business. So some final thoughts here. We covered the example, not the rule, the example. So, pick a path. Do you want to charge a premium and sell against the future and sell the vision? Do you want to pick a lower price point and just lock people up? But pick it and move forward. But I really want you to be cognizant, not just of these charter sponsors, but of everything you have to sell. And we see this a lot on social promotions. Don't undersell your value. I can't tell you how many times we'll do training with somebody and say, oh, the advertisers here won't spend that type of money, that type of $400 to do this. And I go, well, don't you have newspapers and magazines and other things? Sure. Well, how much do they spend on the newspaper? Well, they spend $2,000 a month on the newspaper, but they wouldn't spend $400 on this thing. Why? It's about the value. It's not about the dollar amount. The money is out there. So don't undersell your value. And don't overassume your client's expertise. People will always ask you, how much traffic do you have? And a lot of our publishers aren't comfortable with some of the core statistics. The reality is that's a knee-jerk reaction. They have no idea what the answer is, regardless of what you say. Educate them on the process, what you're doing to engage and to grow, and how you can deliver value to them. And if they do have an expertise that is legitimate and that you don't have, congratulate them for it. Recognize that. Who doesn't love to be praised? Wow, that's really insightful. I don't actually know the answer to that question. Let me go get it. If I say that to you, I'm not sure what the answer is. Let me go get it for you. Does that make you think, wow, this guy doesn't know anything? Or does it make me sound like somebody who wants to deliver real information that's going to be useful to you? Don't be afraid to tell people when you don't have the answer, and don't assume that they're always asking as an expert. And then use these things as a chance to educate and inform. We see a lot of misinformation out there. Well, I'm going to be investing in SEO. That's probably a good idea for your clients to invest in SEO. What are you doing to invest in SEO? Well, I'm paying a guy to do stuff. What sort of stuff? I don't know. That's a problem. Investing in your business, you should fundamentally understand. If you were investing in inventory, and I said, what sort of inventory are you buying? And you said, I don't know. That would be a problem. It's a problem with marketing. So you may need to educate, and you may need to correct. If their assumption is, we've got meta tags on our site, so our site's search optimized, that's a problem, because that's not how it works. They need to be recognized. They need to produce content. They need to do things. The point is, you're more of an expert than they are, even if you're feeling like there's areas that you don't fully understand on digital. Use that to deliver value to them. And like last week, embrace the close. Create the sense of urgency. With Valentine's Day, you don't have to create anything. It's coming. With your charter sponsors, you get urgency and scarcity. There's 10 spots. When we sell out, we're done. Right now, we have 50 advertisers we're talking to. 1 out of 5 needs to say yes to sell out. Do you think that's going to happen? Would you like to be one of those 5? You can create the scarcity and tap into people's pride. I'm proud of where I grew up. I grew up in Placerville. It's old Hangtown. I grew up a few miles away from where they discovered gold in the 1800s. I've probably told every single one of you on this call that very thing, at least the last bit about the gold. I'm proud of that. If you can give me a way to embrace that and to grow my business while also tapping into that pride, man, that's special. And then about the value. When you fundamentally believe that you can deliver value, and if something that you sell happens to not hit the nail on the head, but you're going to make it right, they can't make a bad decision from buying from you. Believe it and convey it, and people will absolutely buy from you. So as we look forward to next week, we're going to be talking about more revenue activities and more content, of course, and we'd love to hear any questions ahead of time from you or any particular challenges you're facing, objections, et cetera, so we can address those in the call. If you're looking for a little more sales support, we do have the Digital Sales Coach program and Digital Solution Specialist, where we actually sell for you, that we talked about last week, and happy to share about if you're so interested. So with that, we're going to wrap up our call, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks so much for joining.